So we will deal with lymphoid organs in detail. Lymphoid organs are of two types, primary lymphoid organ and secondary lymphoid organs. Generally, what are lymphoid organs? The organs associated with lymphocytes in one or the other way. When we say it is associated with lymphocytes, lymphoid organs are the place where the origin or formation, proliferation when I say increase in the number of cells, and development of lymphocytes takes place. So it is a region where origin, proliferation and development of lymphocytes takes place. Origin when I say, formation, proliferation when I say, increase in the number of lymphocytes, and maturation when I say, it is completely getting matured enough to carry out its action. So all these things, all these phenomenon happens in lymphoid organs. There are two different types of lymphoid organs, primary and secondary lymphoid organs. When we speak about primary lymphoid organs again, here generally origin, proliferation and maturation of lymphocytes occur, as I said, talked about lymphoid organs. Origin, formation, proliferation, increase in the number of cells and maturation of lymphocytes occur in the primary lymphoid organs. There are two important primary lymphoid organs. Yellow represents lymphoid organs. There are two important primary lymphoid organs. One is bone marrow. The second one is thymus. Okay. So we have already dealt with these two topics in my previous classes. Let me just brief you. Bone marrow is nothing but a spongy tissue present inside your bone, especially your thigh and hip bone. Okay, so they are the spongy tissue present inside the bone. Now, bone marrow, why is it so important? Because bone marrow is the region where all your RBCs, WBCs and platelets are produced. Now when I say WBCs are produced, here one of the WBCs, which is known as lymphocytes, also is produced in the bone marrow. Okay, I have just mentioned lymphocytes since we are talking about lymphoid organs. However, you have to know that all the RBCs and WBCs and platelets are produced in bone marrow itself. Okay. Now, here in lymphocytes we have two, B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. Out of these two lymphocytes, this lymphocyte known as B lymphocyte, they actually are born in bone marrow, they will proliferate in bone marrow and they will also mature in bone marrow. Okay. So, they are originated, proliferated, here these three terms, and matured in bone marrow itself. That is the reason, since everything happens in bone marrow, these lymphocytes are known as B lymphocytes. B represents bone marrow. Hope this is clear to you. Whereas, if we talk about T lymphocytes are born in bone marrow. Okay, T lymphocytes are born in bone marrow, but in order to proliferate and mature, it moves to thymus gland. Okay, so bone marrow, in the bone marrow itself, both the lymphocytes B and T lymphocytes are born. However, B lymphocytes, they are born, they proliferate, they mature in bone marrow. However, the T lymphocytes, they are born in bone marrow. However, in order to proliferate and mature, they move to thymus. Okay, so thymus is a small organ located just below our, just in between our lungs, in front of the heart and just behind the sternum, which is the bone which is present here in between your lungs. Okay, now thymus actually is an organ which is of a bigger size when we were born. Okay, during childhood, the size of the thymus will be large. As we reach the adult stage, the size of the thymus will decrease. Okay, this is probably the only organ whose size will decrease as we are growing old and old. Okay, so that is the reason in old age people, the size of the thymus is so small that their immunity also is very less. So the thymus, size of the thymus keeps decreasing as we reach the adult stage. Okay, these two are the primary lymphoid organs. So what are primary lymphoid organs? These are the organs in which origin, proliferation and maturation of lymphocytes occur. Okay, which are the primary lymphocyte organs? Bone marrow and thymus. Let's move on to the secondary lymphoid organs. Secondary lymphoid organs are the organs which do not take part in any of this. They are just the organs where lymphocytes interact with antigens. Now, these lymphocytes are born in primary lymphoid organs. There are two types. Why are they born? They are born to produce antibodies. B lymphocytes especially, they produce antibodies. Why they produce antibodies? To kill the antigen or any pathogen entering our body. So where does this happen? Okay, even though lymphocytes are produced in bone marrow, the bone marrow, in the bone marrow itself, the B lymphocytes will mature to become effector cells. That means, it is ready to attack the antigen, completely matures and it is remained in the bone marrow. When the antigen enters our body, when the antigens enter our body, the antigen will be killed by the lymphocytes, right? Or the antibodies produced by the lymphocytes will be killed. Antibodies produced by the lymphocytes will go and kill the antigen. This interaction between antigen and lymphocytes occur in the secondary lymphoid organs. Okay, they are produced, proliferated and matured in the primary lymphoid organs, but they work, their function, the actual groundwork is done along with antigen in the secondary lymphoid organs. This is the organ where lymphocytes interact with the antigen. So which are the different secondary lymphoid organs? The first one is spleen. Spleen, as you all know, it is an organ present in our body towards our left side, just behind your stomach. Okay. Why spleen is so important? Spleen acts as a very important secondary lymphoid organ. Spleen generally store macrophages and phagocytes. They filter blood for any type of pathogen. They are the reservoir of erythrocytes. Okay. Why spleen is such an important secondary lymphoid organ? First is they store macrophages and phagocytes. Okay. While explaining your innate immunity, I explained what are macrophages. Large cells which are able to engulf or eat the incoming pathogen. So phagocytes, again the same thing, the cells which are able to eat the pathogens. When the pathogen enter, imagine this is a pathogen, it is coming near the macrophage. The macrophage is completely going to engulf this pathogen, okay, and digest it. So such property, both phagocytes and macrophages have this property of engulfing the pathogen. Then they filter blood for any pathogen. Spleen does this function. If the blood is flowing through spleen, if the blood is carrying any pathogen in it, it will be trapped by the spleen. Okay, so the spleen carries out this filtration of blood and just checks if any pathogens are present in the blood. Next is, it is a reservoir of erythrocytes. It stores a large quantity of erythrocytes. It is also known as graveyard of RBC, as you studied in your first year class. If there are any old RBCs passing through the spleen, it will be again filtered by the spleen and it will be completely removed from the blood circulation. Then the next organ, which is known as secondary lymphoid organ, can be referred as mucosa associated lymphoid tissue, MALT. Okay, in general we say it, we call it as MALT, mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. The lymphoid tissue, the tissue which is rich in lymphocytes. Okay, lymphoid tissue means the tissue which is associated with, the tissue which is associated with lymphocytes are known as lymphoid tissue. When this lymphoid tissue is associated with mucosa, okay, mucosa is the innermost layer of your GI tract, that is gastrointestinal tract, respiratory tract, urinary tract and genital tract. So they are the innermost layer of your all your GI tract, respiratory tract and urinogenital tract. So when this layer is associated with lymphoid tissue, the tissue which is rich in lymphocytes, we call it as MALT. Okay, so this was a very important question for your exam. So this is the second lymphoid organ present in our body. Now you can ask me how it is a secondary lymphoid organ. I told you this is the innermost layer of your different tracts of your body. They are associated with lymphoid tissue. Then the fact that they are associated with lymphoid tissue obviously it has more and more lymphocytes. So this becomes a place for the interaction of the lymphoid tissue to interact with any kind of antigen passing through these tracts. Okay, imagine this tissue is present in your intestine and some antigen is passing through your intestine easily. If only there is mucosa, then the mucosa it will not be able to stop the antigen or kill the antigen. If the mucosa is associated with lymphoid tissue, this tissue is rich in lymphocytes. So when the pathogen is passing through your intestine along with your food, the lymphoid tissue carries lymphocytes. The lymphocytes will immediately interact with the antigen passing through the intestine. So that's about mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. There's one more secondary lymphoid organ that needs to be studied. The associated lymphoid tissue, it is the layer, the layer of your GI tract, respiratory tract and urinogenital tract, which is associated with tissue rich in lymphocytes. When any you can take an example of your urinary tract. If some antigen is passing through your urinary tract, okay, and if there is lymphocytes present in the lymphoid tissue, immediately these antigens will be captured by the lymphocytes and it will be neutralized by the antibodies produced by these lymphocytes. Now the last type of or the third type of secondary lymphoid organs we will be studying is lymph nodes. Okay, you already know that in our body, along with our blood circulation, we have one more system known as lymphatic system. Okay, so lymphatic system carries lymph vessels throughout our body. Okay, just like blood vessels, lymph vessels are also spreaded throughout our body. Now in this lymph vessel, if the blood vessel is carrying blood, lymph vessel carries lymph. Lymph is a colorless fluid which is rich in lymphocytes. Okay, when the lymph vessels are passing through our body, in certain regions, these lymph vessels enlarges and become structures known as lymph nodes. If this is a lymph vessel, in some regions it becomes enlarged and is converted into a region known as lymph nodes. Okay, why lymph nodes are so important in a lymphatic system? Lymph nodes are very important because this is the place where unwanted pathogens are filtered or trapped in your lymphatic vessels. This is the region which actually traps all the pathogens that has entered your body. Okay, when in the lymphatic vessels, as you all know, already lymph is flowing and lymph is rich in lymphocytes. When bacteria or any pathogen are stored in this region, the lymphocytes which is present in the lymph that is already flowing in this vessel, it will come and neutralize the pathogen. So it's easy to remove the pathogen from our circulation. So such secondary lymphoid organs are known as lymph nodes. They are enlarged, little enlarged area in our lymphatic vessels. Okay, lymphatic vessels are the vessels which carries lymph. Lymph is a fluid which is rich in your lymphocytes. When the pathogen, any pathogen, including bacteria, virus, fungi, protozoan, anything is it is entered your body, it will be trapped in that particular lymph nodes. When the lymph is passing through this lymphatic vessels, it is carrying lymphocytes. It will come in contact with the lymph nodes. It will come in contact with the pathogen present in the lymph nodes and it will neutralize the pathogen. So again, if you see, this is the region where lymphocytes are meeting the pathogen. Okay, lymphocytes are interacting or meeting the antigen. Why they are how they are interacting? They are killing it. They are neutralizing the antigen. So this is how lymphocytes always interact with antigen. So the region where they are interacted are three important regions are given: spleen, malt, mucosa associated lymphoid tissue, and lymph nodes. Along with this, there are certain other secondary lymphoid organs like your tonsils. They are soft tissue present, on both the side of your pharynx here in our throat. They also act as secondary lymphoid organs because if food and air has to pass through your nose and mouth, it has to pass through this region known as tonsils. Okay, this region, your throat region. There is a soft tissue here known as tonsils. Okay, so they will try to capture some incoming pathogens. So that way they also act as secondary lymphoid organs. Appendix. Appendix is a outgrowth which is present in the cecum region of your large intestine. They also act as secondary lymphoid organs. Then the next is Peyer's patches. That's what we say. They are the special type of tissue, lymphatic tissue which is rich in lymphocytes. They are, if you look into your small intestine, small intestine, we have three regions known as duodenum, jejunum, ileum. In the last region, which is known as ileum, there are certain patches of lymphatic tissue. They are known as Peyer's patches. Why they are so important? As I told you, it is a lymphatic tissue. It carries lymphocytes. So this patch is also responsible for giving immunity to our body. This region is also helpful for the interaction of the lymphocytes with the antigen, because this patch contains lymphatic tissue. Lymphatic tissue has lymphocytes, and when any pathogen is passing through your small intestine, it will be captured by this Peyer's patches, the lymphatic tissue, and the lymphocytes will interact with that antigen and it will neutralize the antigen. So these are the secondary lymphoid organs. Here we have to study tonsils, appendix, Peyer's patch, spleen, malt and lymph nodes. Whole immune system, the lymphoid organs are very clear to you. If this is clear to you, we will move on to our next topic, which is AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Our next topic is AIDS. Okay, the full form of AIDS is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Okay, if you read all the words one by one, acquired means it was not inborn, you acquired it in your lifespan. Immunodeficiency, that means you have an immune deficiency. Like we say vitamin deficiency, this is immunodeficiency. That means there is lack of immunity in your body. Syndrome. Syndrome means when many diseases come together in a person or multiple symptoms come together in a person, we call them as syndrome. Syndrome is not having one particular symptom of one particular disease, having multiple symptoms of multiple diseases. Okay, so that's the explanation of AIDS. Acquired, you gained it in your lifespan. Immunodeficiency, that means there is lack of immunity or deficiency of immunity in your body. Syndrome, that means you have group of symptoms. You have not only one disease and one symptom, you have multiple symptoms of multiple diseases in your body. That becomes AIDS. Now you can read this. This means deficiency of immune system. That means there is lack of immune system acquired during the lifetime of an individual. That means I have already told you, you acquired it in your lifespan, indicating that it is not a congenital disease. Congenital disease means it is not a genetic disease which is transferred from your father to you. You gained it yourself in your lifespan. Okay, AIDS is nothing but it is a collection of symptoms, or it is not a disease, it is a syndrome where you have multiple symptoms of multiple diseases in one person's body. How did you get it? You got it in your lifespan. You did not get it as a congenital disease. That means you did not get this disease as a genetic disease from your parents. Okay, such disease is AIDS. Syndrome means a group of symptoms I already mentioned. AIDS was first reported in 1981. If I am not wrong, AIDS was first reported in New York, America, and in India it was reported for the first time in the year 1986 in Tamil Nadu. Okay, in the last 25 years or so, it has spread all over the world, killing more than 25 million persons. Okay, you can see the severity of AIDS. AIDS is caused by the human immunodeficiency virus. Okay, this disease known as AIDS is caused by this virus HIV. It is a common virus known as HIV, human immunodeficiency virus. You can also write it as, few people they write it as human immunovirus. I suggest you to write it as human immunodeficiency virus, because this is a virus which attacks human beings and causes deficiency of the immune system. That means your whole immune system becomes weak. A member of a group of virus called as retrovirus. This virus known as HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, this belongs to a group of virus known as retrovirus. We have studied one more group of virus known as rhinovirus while studying common cold. Okay, they are different group of virus known as rhino. Here HIV is a virus which belong HIV, the name itself indicates it's a virus. HIV is a virus coming under this group of virus or family of virus known as retrovirus. Retrovirus, what is the speciality? They are the virus having single-stranded RNA as their genetic material. Okay, the speciality of retrovirus is that we have double-stranded DNA in our body as a genetic material, whereas this virus has single-stranded RNA as their genetic material, which have an envelope enclosing the RNA genome. Okay, I have already mentioned they have RNA as their genome. We have both DNA and RNA in our body, whereas retrovirus, they have RNA genome. That means their genetic material is RNA, which is surrounded by an envelope. Okay, if you look into the structure of this virus, HIV, human immunovirus, they have a envelope, enclosed in this envelope, there is this RNA genome. Now, how AIDS is transmitted? How AIDS spreads from one person to another person? By sexual contact with infected person, we already know if there is unprotected sexual contact with a infected person who is already having AIDS, then this disease will easily spread by transfusion of contaminated blood and blood products. If a person is having AIDS and the person is ready to donate blood, and if you are taking the blood and transfusing it with any other healthy person, then the healthy person may develop AIDS. By sharing infected needles, as in the case of intravenous drug abusers, you have seen people taking drugs, they inject the drug directly into your veins. That's known as intravenous drug injection. So such people who are injecting the drugs intravenously, they use syringes. If the same syringes or needle is used by a healthy person, then the healthy person might develop AIDS. Then from infected mother to her child through placenta. There is a condition where infected mother might transfer the HIV through placenta to the child. So the HIV will develop AIDS in the newborn baby. Who are at high risk? Okay, who are the high risk individuals who are prone to get this AIDS? Individuals who have multiple sexual partners, okay, drug addicts who take drugs intravenously. I have already told you what is intravenous. Individuals who require repeated blood transfusions. People who are having kidney problems, they might or heart problem, they might require repeated blood transfusion. That means they need a donor to give them blood regularly. So if the donor is having HIV infection, then the healthy person will also get the AIDS. And children born to an HIV infected mother, they are also high risk individuals. Spread. How AIDS is spread from one person to another. HIV or AIDS is not spread by mere touch or physical contact. It spreads only through body fluid. Okay, you might be aware of this a fact that if a person who is infected with AIDS, if it just touches a healthy person, it will not transmit the disease. The disease will get transmitted only through body fluids. It could be blood or it could be semen. There is always a time lag between the infection and appearance of AIDS symptoms. There is a time lag means if HIV is infecting your body, not that tomorrow itself the HIV is going to develop AIDS. HIV is the virus, AIDS is the disease. Okay, if the condition does not happen. There are cases. This period may vary from a few months to many years, usually 5 to 10 years. From the day HIV has entered your body, it can stay calm up to 5 to 10 years before causing this condition known as AIDS. Okay, so it does not, HIV does not immediately develop AIDS. There is a time lag. That means time lag between the HIV infection and this AIDS development in your body. Then the next topic is life cycle of HIV. This is a very important topic for your 5 marks questions. Okay, we will study the life cycle of HIV with the help of a diagram. Okay, now this is the life cycle of HIV. Here you see, this is the structure of a HIV, human immunodeficiency virus. Okay, so this is the capsule of the virus, and this center part is the RNA. I have told you they have single stranded RNA. There is one more single stranded RNA. Okay, but here for your better understanding, they have given only a single stranded RNA here. Okay, here actually this diagram represents, two single stranded RNAs. Inside a normal virus, HIV, there will be 2 single stranded RNAs, but you have to remember that the genetic material of virus or this HIV, here I have told you they belong to the class of virus or family of virus known as retrovirus. Here they have a external protein coat. Okay, they have a surrounding coat made by protein. Inside they have this viral RNA coat. This is the RNA, viral RNA, which is a single stranded RNA. Now what happens is, if the virus has entered your body, virus infects normal cell. Okay, virus when they enter your body has healthy cells. You don't have AIDS, right? When this body enters when the virus enters your body, it directly infects a cell known as macrophage. Okay, this is a very important question. When HIV, human immunovirus, enters your body through any source, it directly attacks your body cell. Okay, this cell is known as macrophages. Okay, macrophages I have already told you, they have developed from monocyte. Monocyte is a type of WBC. Okay, so the virus is attacking this cell known as macrophages. Macrophages is a cell, so it has its own DNA. It is attacking a human cell, okay, human macrophage. So we have DNA inside a cell. Now what happens is, as soon as the virus enters the, virus comes close to the macrophage, this protein coat does not enter the macrophage. Whereas if you see, only the single stranded RNA has entered the macrophage. Okay, so this whole rectangular shaped structure is representing a macrophage. Okay, so virus is attacking the macrophage. The protein coat does not enter the macrophage. Only the single stranded RNA enters the macrophage. Once the single stranded RNA, see here, viral RNA is introduced into the cell. This is viral RNA, which is single stranded RNA. It is introduced into the cell. Now, since this is RNA, this virus RNA has to produce DNA now. Okay, viral RNA has entered the macrophage or a human body cell. Now it has to produce DNA. Now here you see how RNA produces DNA. We have already studied about a process where DNA produces RNA. Okay, in your molecular basis of inheritance chapter, you will be studying about a topic called the central dogma of molecular biology. There you will see that in our body DNA produces RNA. RNA in turn produces proteins. Okay, but there is a possibility where RNA can sometimes produce DNA. This is known as reverse transcription. Okay, we will study in detail about this topic. Okay, when DNA produces RNA, it is known as transcription. When RNA produces DNA, it is known as reverse transcription. Okay, there is an enzyme which carries out this process. It is known as reverse transcriptase. Okay, now let me explain with my hand drawn diagram here. So let us start with the life cycle of HIV, human immunovirus. So imagine this is a virus, human immunovirus, HIV. It has single-stranded RNA, or generally we will take, they have RNA as their genetic material, and this is the protein code which is present surrounding to this RNA. Okay, why we call it as RNA? Because it is in the form of single strand. If this is the condition, then we will call them as double-stranded. This condition we will call double-stranded RNA. Okay, since this is the condition, we will call it as single-stranded RNA. So when HIV enters a human body, it directly infects the cell known as macrophage. Imagine in any other case of pathogen, if a pathogen is entering our body, the macrophages are the major cells which will go and engulf that pathogen. That means eats off that pathogen. Whereas in case of AIDS, HIV, when it enters a human body, it directly attacks the macrophage itself. Okay, so this HIV comes and attaches to the plasma membrane of this macrophage. Now, this macrophage, it's a animal cell. We have it in our body. So, they have a nucleus and we have a double helix DNA, right? We have a double helix DNA. Now, when this virus, HIV, attacks this macrophage, this protein code remains outside the plasma membrane. Only the RNA enters into the macrophage. As soon as they enter the macrophage, the RNA, what they do is, they undergo a process known as reverse transcription. Okay, with the help of enzyme, reverse transcriptase. An enzyme called, with the help of enzyme transcriptase, RNA produces DNA. Okay, so this is viral RNA produces viral DNA. The RNA which has come inside the protein coat of HIV gets into the macrophage, whereas RNA produces DNA. This process is known as reverse transcription. There is an enzyme which helps this process to happen. The enzyme is known as reverse transcriptase enzyme. Okay, so now DNA, viral DNA is produced. Once the viral DNA is produced, what happens is, it gets mixed with the, or it gets combined with the DNA of the macrophage. Let me draw DNA of the macrophage in orange color. Okay, imagine this is the DNA of the macrophage of a human body. This viral DNA gets incorporated into the DNA of the macrophage. So this viral DNA gets incorporated into the DNA of the macrophage. So macrophage is now host, right? Because it has received the viral DNA, or we have this person's body has received the HIV. So this person is known as host now. So DNA of the host, the person who has accepted the HIV. Now, once this viral DNA gets incorporated into the host DNA, here in the nucleus what happens is the viral DNA particles are produced in more and more number. Okay, once the incorporation is done, then what has to be produced here? Here what is produced? More and more viral DNA is produced. The host DNA gets incorporated into the viral DNA. Then in the nucleus of the macrophage or the host, new viral RNAs will be produced. Okay, here more and more, sorry, not DNA, RNAs will be produced. Okay, so from the DNA it is generally RNA which is produced. Usually what happens, if this has not incorporated, this is the DNA of the host or the macrophage. The DNA of the macrophage produces RNA or mRNA, which is required by the macrophage. Okay, here macrophage's DNA has no contribution here. It has no value here. Only the viral DNA will start producing viral RNA. Okay, there is no role of this host DNA. They have just made use of the host DNA in order to produce the viral RNA. So more and more viral RNA will be produced. Okay, more and more viral RNA, to be specific mRNA, viral mRNA will be produced inside the macrophage nucleus. Okay, so this is the, since this is the whole cell of the macrophage, this is the nucleus. Inside the nucleus initially DNA of the macrophage was there, then the viral DNA came and got incorporated. Now the viral DNA will start producing viral RNA, more and more viral RNA. Then once the viral RNAs are produced, these viral RNAs will come out of the host nucleus, of the macrophage nucleus, it will come out. Okay, it will get attached to the ribosome, okay, and it will start producing proteins, which is required in order to form its coat. Okay, so one virus has entered, it has produced multiple virus now. So HIV. So multiple, more and more numbers of HIV are produced inside the macrophage. Then these viruses will come out, then they will infect cells known as T helper cells. It is generally referred as TH. Okay, so this virus which have been produced newly, they will come out of the macrophage. Okay, they will come out of the macrophage. Now here one more thing to remember is, since macrophage is a cell where more and more number of HIVs are produced, they are known as HIV factories. They are known as HIV factories of our body. Okay, so one HIV comes in, they attack the macrophage, they release their RNA, RNA produces DNA, DNA gets incorporated into the macrophage DNA, then the viral DNA will start producing viral RNA, they will come out, they will produce their own protein code, they will become active HIV, human immunovirus. They will come out of the macrophage and they, next they will attack the T helper cells. T helper cells are very important type of T lymphocytes. Only when the T helper cell says, the B lymphocytes will start producing antibodies. Okay, so T helper cells, what is their function? They actually go and inform the B lymphocytes to produce antibodies. When the virus has attacked these T helper cells, these T helper cells will be killed. Okay, so more and more number of virus are produced inside the macrophage. It will attack more and more T helper cells and it will start killing most of the T helper cells present in our body. When the T helper cells number decreases gradually, our immunity also decreases, because when T helper cells are not there, B lymphocytes will not be communicated to produce antibodies. I told you, B lymphocytes produces antibodies, T lymphocytes helps the B lymphocytes to produce antibodies. Okay, in that T helper cells actually asks the B lymphocytes to produce antibodies. So these T helper cells, also you should know that the HIV also can infect, they can infect T helper cells. Also, this process can happen in T helper cells also to produce more and more number of HIV. However, ultimately, T helper cells of our body, reduces gradually, and ultimately a drastic change in the number of T helper cells, because all the T helper cells will be killed. So your immunity will go for a task now, okay, and there is no T helper cells, there is no B lymphocyte producing antibodies. Ultimately, the HIV will take over your complete, machinery. They will start ruling the whole immune system and the person will develop this disease known as AIDS. When there are no T helper cells, even the mildest form of microorganisms like toxoplasma or any simple fungus or simple bacteria entering your body also can cause a major disease in your body or major symptoms. If there are proper T helper cells in your body, if there are multiple T helper cells, if any bacteria is entering your body, if it is less pathogenic, it will be immediately killed by your antibodies produced by the B lymphocytes. However, when T helper cells are also are not there, definitely even the mildest form of infection will also become a serious issue in a person's body. Okay, and he will develop multiple symptoms for any and every bacteria or fungus or protozoa entering that particular body. Okay, so that's the reason we call it as syndrome, collection of symptoms. I hope this is clear to you. So the first cell which is infected by the HIV in our body is macrophage. It is known as HIV factory. Now, when they produce more and more HIV, ultimately it attacks T helper cells. T helper cells will be killed by HIV and ultimately your immune system is completely affected and there is no immunity left in your body. So you tend to develop all the symptoms for all the incoming pathogen. So that is the life cycle of HIV. I hope this is clear to you. Enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. Okay, in order to diagnose if a person is having AIDS, a test is done. It is commonly known as ELISA. The full form is enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. Okay, enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. It is a type of test which is based on antigen antibody reaction that is carried out in the laboratory or any diagnostic centers in order to find out if a person is having AIDS. Treatment of AIDS with antiretroviral drug is only partially effective. If you read this, nowadays in order to cure AIDS or in order to treat AIDS, doctors are suggesting antiretroviral drugs. I told you, retrovirus. The group of virus which is capable of causing AIDS are known as retrovirus. HIV is a type of retrovirus. So there are some antiretroviral drugs available in the market, but they are partially effective. That means no medicine can cure AIDS completely. They can only prolong the life of the patient but cannot prevent death, which is inevitable. That means death is mandatory, or death is for sure in the case of AIDS. Okay, the medicine, the antiretroviral drugs only can prolong the patient's lifespan, but death is for sure in case of AIDS. We will see how to prevent AIDS. Okay, here it is very much clear that there is no permanent cure for AIDS. If a person has been diagnosed with HIV, then the doctor can only prolong the life of the patient by giving some drugs, but that death is going to happen for sure. So it's very important to prevent AIDS. There is something called as NACO. You must have heard of NACO, National AIDS Control Organization, and there are some other NGOs, non-governmental organization. They are doing a lot to educate people about AIDS. WHO has started a number of programs to prevent the spreading of HIV infection. Making blood safe from HIV. Okay, that is the best way. Making blood safe from HIV. That means if we are taking blood from blood banks, people have to make sure that the blood is properly checked for the presence of any kind of pathogen. Not only HIV, any kind of pathogen. Ensuring the use of only disposable needles and syringes in public and private hospitals and clinics. Wherever you are going, you have to demand the hospital or clinic or diagnostic center people to use a new needle and syringe. The used one should not be used, only the disposable. That means only one use needle and one use syringes should be used. Free distribution of condoms, because we know it is a disease which can be transmitted through sexual contact, especially person who is having multiple sexual partners. So free distribution of condoms, they are done by government. Controlling drug abuse. Okay, people who are consuming drugs or taking drugs, what they do is they tend to share their syringes and needles. So in order to avoid AIDS, the controlling of drug abuse is very important. Advocating safe sex and promoting regular checkups for HIV. Okay, advocating safe sex, people should involve in safe sexual intercourse rather than involving in sex with multiple sexual partners, and using the precautionary measures, and promoting regular checkups for HIV in susceptible population. People who are prone to get such type of diseases, regular checkups should be done, and are some of the steps taken up in order to prevent AIDS. Okay, so that's all about AIDS. I hope the symptoms, the diagnostic techniques, the life cycle of HIV, everything is clear to you. With this, we will end this part or session. In our next session, we will look into another important disease known as cancer.